Hi, and welcome on Our Planet, the bi-weekly show that takes you here in and around Manhattan in search for the pioneers of sustainable lifestyles. I'm your host, Pamela Peters, and it is a pleasure to take you today here in Bryant Park and surroundings. We're getting ready for Earth Day. Last show, we had the pleasure to see the film introductions to the Sustainable Planet Film Festival that I founded for the UNESCO Decade on Sustainable Education. And we had an interview with green entrepreneur Steve Schneider, CEO of ZAP. We'll first have a little look at what that was about, and then we'll take it a step further and hit the streets for some street interviews. We have the honor of having Steven Schneider next to us. He's the CEO of ZAP, Zero Air Pollution. He is importing cars, distributing cars here in America that are green. And we have a very special one-on-one here tonight. Steven, welcome.
Well, thank you, Pamela. It's an honor to be here.
Tell me a little bit more about the cars, the transportation vehicles you have in your shop.
Well, we're very excited about what we're doing. As I told you earlier, we are establishing a distribution portal for the United States first, and then we're moving that portal to the rest of the world, but we're using the U.S. as the test market for what we're doing. So far, it's been very well received in the U.S. markets, a market that many of the critics have said doesn't exist in the United States, that most of us in the U.S. are in love with our giant cars and we're in love with our oil, as the president said in the State of the Union address. But you know, we've done some test marketing, and we found that that's just not the case. That Americans are changing their mindset, and they're changing it now. Yeah. It's not 20 years from now. Yeah. They're ready to make decisions in their driving habits and their position in environmental issues today. And it's been our experience that if a consumer has a choice between paying a higher price or polluting the air, they'll probably pollute the air. Mm-hmm. However, if they do have a choice and both are equal, they'll usually take the higher road, and they'll choose the more socially responsible way to transport themselves. And we first launched this program, we offered it to the new car franchise dealers at the National Auto Dealers Convention in New Orleans last year, a year ago this month. We introduced the concept of socially responsible transportation and being friendly to the environment in a microcar platform. And we had anticipated, even though the critics were saying that there was probably no more than 10,000 vehicles per year in a boutique environment that the U.S. would consume, if any. While we were at the show, we took tens of millions, I think 55 million in orders right on the spot, right at the show. This is a short show, 2 or 3 days. And then the residuals from that show came in afterwards to an excess in less than 90 days of $2.2 billion in orders for high-efficiency microcars just in the United States. We had to actually stop taking orders, and we capped it at $2 billion because we didn't know how we could even facilitate this amount of orders. Yeah. And it's important to know that these are real orders. They're not just, I'm interested in the car. These are guys that are signing on the bottom line. They're willing to put up financial consequence for cancellation. And they did. So we were in a situation that we completely underestimated the market, even ourselves. We thought it was a huge market, but it was a lot larger. So the American public spoke out, and we're responding. Yeah. And now we have recruited many other manufacturers, some that are in the final stages of making agreements with us to be part of our distribution portal, and some like the Brazilian Avio vehicle that we have here tonight at this event that is everything that we could dream of. It's a tribrid vehicle. Everyone's talking about hybrid vehicles. Well, this is a tribrid vehicle.
I never heard of the term tribrid vehicles before.
Well, what it is, it has all the same components of a hybrid, which are gas and electric, 2 different types of fuels. And we've added an additional component of flex fuel. So these vehicles will run on gasoline, electricity, and alcohol, or methanol, ethanol, any of those type of things. And the unique thing is that they'll run at any ratio of those mixtures. It'll run 10% gasoline, 90% alcohol, 80, 20, 60, 40, 50, 50. It doesn't matter. The computer system automatically calibrates for the adjustment in the fuel mixture. But this isn't anything new. The Brazilians have been doing it for about 30 years now. And I was just amazed that this technology has not made it to America based on the fact that they have been doing it for years.
Now, why do you think that technology is not mainstream already? What are the factors that are holding back the mainstreaming of alternative and green energy efficient vehicles?
Well, I hate to
Be honest, be honest.
Getting political in these arenas is not an area that I want to overstep in, but there are agendas that aren't aligned with being friendly to the environment and more profit-based that may delay these type of things from happening. Don't get me wrong, we are in it for the profit as well, and we were discussing earlier how the one problem that certain environmentalists have is that they're so convicted to their passion that they forget that in order to fulfill their prophecy, they actually do need to make a profit to stay in existence.
Yeah.
So, if you really do want to be socially responsible and you really do want to produce an environmentally safe product, you have to make a profit at doing it so you can continue on in business. Otherwise, you'll spend all your money and you'll be gone.
And there was actually a lack that was a reality in the 80s and the 90s that environmental people did not have an economic reality.
Oh, that's correct. And if history has taught us anything, it's taught us that.
So it's a win-win situation for you at the moment. There's an environmental result. I mean, Mother Earth will have less exhaust and atmospheric pollution to cope with. And at the same time, your company is generating a profit. So this is something that could survive in the long term.
Well, absolutely. I mean, the times are changing, and we all know it. If you just look at all of the climate change that's been happening in the world today, all these storms in Florida, Katrina in New Orleans, tsunamis, record snowfalls in the Sierras, record snowfalls here in New York, and records are breaking one after another. The polar caps are melting, polar bears are sinking into areas and drowning as a result of ice that's melting that they weren't used to, and it's no longer something that people are burying as, it's maybe not really happening. It's just a few radical groups that are promoting that global warming is real. It's real. It's taking place, and I don't think anyone can deny that there's change. We have to do something about it. And at ZAP, we can't fix the whole world's problem, but automobiles are a major contributing factor, if probably not the number one contributing factor to what's taking place in all of the global warming and climate change. And so if we can lead that, we're happy to do it.
I would say that the only way for the 21st century to be a green century is to have environmentally success stories, just as Mr. Schneider's success stories. And in order to get the attention to those products are pretty much the endorsing of celebrities. Kevin Spacey drove into the Late Show with David Letterman on a little scooter.
Yes, he did.
What does one thing like that do for your company?
We have been very fortunate in the celebrity department. Sometimes, when you're working for a living and you're barely getting by, sometimes you don't have time for your own life even, you're just surviving. But celebrities, they've made it financially, and then sometimes when you make it financially, you start thinking about other people in the rest of the world. And I think that's what Kevin Spacey and many of the other celebrities attempt to do. And we have made a lot of celebrity contacts, not because we've been looking for them, they've been looking for us. And so we have been very fortunate that way. We've had a lot of celebrity endorsement and a lot of political endorsement. We've had a lot of sports figures, and they all get behind what we're doing. And it's good for them, it's good for us, and it's good for everyone in the world that consumes product. So we're very happy. We welcome it. Any of you celebrities out there that want to get behind more of what we're doing, we welcome you. And Well, you know how it is. When a celebrity gets behind something, it becomes more attractive to the average consumer. And even though they might not be thinking socially responsible, if they're thinking that someone of popularity or celebrity is involved in it, that maybe it's worth taking a second look.
So what about the smart development here in New York? What can you tell the people who would like to have one?
Well, fortunately, I can say that we're the only company in America that has the technology to bring these vehicles to U.S. compliance. And that what that means in English is that U.S. consumers can now have the benefit of what European consumers have been using all along. The smart car is one of the coolest, highest efficiency automobiles in the world. It's like almost a cult following similar to the Volkswagen Bug, except it gets just tremendous fuel economy, and it has a safety that most people don't quite realize. They see it's such a tiny car, they think it must be unsafe, but that's not the case. These vehicles are like a roll cage of safety, and there's not a lot of extra metal around it, but the passenger compartment is very well protected in the automotive industry. The combustion engine and the way cars have been, other than all the new design, hasn't really changed in the last 100 years. And they know that times are changing, and in order to be competitive, they have to get ahead of the curve. So I think that's why we receive so many orders. These dealers really realize that, you know, if they don't get with the changing times, and that starts with propulsion systems, that they will be left behind. I worked for the very first Honda dealership in the United States, and happened to be in Santa Rosa, California. And in the showroom of that Honda dealership was the very first Honda car that was sold in the United States. And that car was probably smaller than a smart car. And at that time, the environmental impact wasn't an issue. The dependency on foreign oil wasn't an issue. High gas prices that are astronomical were not an issue. The only thing that was an issue at that point was, what do I have that's unique over the other guy? And just being at one end of the spectrum, which was having the smallest car on the road, was enough for the American public to make a market. And we're adding so much more than that. And I believe that there's always a market for extremes. We are dominating the microcar niche market. We have the only microcar in America. And I believe there will always be a market for the smallest car on the road, as there will always be a market for a Hummer or the biggest car on the road. And you know, everything in between just kind of disappears in the abyss. You know, these extremes are always controversial. I mean, there's controversy about the gas usage and fuel economy of these large automobiles, and there's controversy about the size of our small automobiles. But you know, we're big on small at ZAP, so we intend to stay that way.
What is your wish for the future of our planet?
Well, we have to do things one step at a time, and I believe that these cars are one small car for man, but one giant leap for mankind.
Okay, I like that pretty much. Thank you so much for watching Our Planet, the show that brings you pioneers for sustainable lifestyles. I'm your host, Pamela Peters. One more message to all of you: celebrate life every single moment. Take care.
My vision in attacking this market for electric vehicles is a simple one, which others have seemed to overlook, and that is to put these vehicles in the hands of professionals that understand how to sell a vehicle. Forget the fact that they're clean air vehicles and they're protecting our environment. They're still a product that needs to be sold in a proper manner. And my vision is to put those in the hands of the upper 1% of the independent auto dealers, for a trained, skilled auto dealer to utilize, because it changes everything for them. It gives them credibility because they're promoting clean air products. It makes them into a new car dealership and gives them better banking credentials, and it gives them a new profit center that they didn't have before. And that's just a win-win for both the consumer and the prospective dealer. It's a company of global sharing of vision, and everyone in our company, whether they're investors, whether they're vendors, whether they're shareholders, they all share the vision, and that momentum is what is keeping us going, and it's what's making the company strong. And with so many people sharing one direction, it's very difficult to fail.
Warming up for Earth Day, counting down the days for April 22nd. We're here in Bryant Park, one of the greener lungs of Manhattan, and thank God for that. And of course, I met an extraordinary Manhattanite. Robert, welcome to our planet.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here on our planet and on